Hello guys, welcome back to Car Obsession and welcome to another walk around. If you are new to my channel, hello, my name's Aaron. Thank you so much for joining me. On my channel you'll find videos like this, you'll find car reviews and pretty much anything and everything car related. Anyway, onto the car in this video. So, this week I'm testing the new Citroen Berlingo, or to give it its full name, the Citroen Berlingo Multispace M. The M part means that this model is the 5-seater. Now you can have the XL, which is a 7-seater, but yes, as mentioned, I do have the 5-seater. Now the Berlingo is a bit of a dying breed on the car market. This is an MPV, let's face it, nowadays buyers flock towards SUVs. Ever since the Nissan Qashqai came out around 10 years ago, buyers have craved SUVs and not MPVs. But Citroen clearly has faith in the Berlingo because it is still making it, and this car has been very successful for the French brand. It has been in production since 1996, and in that time over 1.7 million units have been made. So although this car may not be as popular as it was, it still holds a pretty important part for Citroen. Now let me talk you through the prices, as I'm sure this is an area that you will want to know about. So if you go for the 5-seater, the starting price is £19,650, whereas if you go for the 7-seater, the starting price is £21,350. In regard to trim levels, you have just two available. You have Fill and Flair. I've got the Flair model, so this car would normally start from £21,940, but I do have a few optional extras, which I will talk about in due course. Now, touching upon rivals, really the largest rivals for this car are within the PSA group. Don't forget PSA group own Peugeot, Citroen, DS and of course Vauxhall. So the two biggest main rivals for this car will be the Peugeot Rifter and the Vauxhall Combi Life, both of which are very similar cars with a very similar price. However, where the Berlingo wins is boot space. Now let me quickly show you the boot. Now you don't get an automatic ability, you have to do it by hand. The tailgate is quite big, but thankfully it's not quite as heavy as it looks, but you will need a rather large space in which to open it because it is quite a large tailgate. Anyway, let me show you the boot. So what you are looking at, apart from an umbrella and my bag, is a whopping 775 litres worth of space. That is gargantuan, and that's the kind of capacities that SUVs can't really match. However, if you want more space, you can of course fold down the individual 3 seats to give you, wait for this, 3,500 litres worth of space. That is mega. This car essentially becomes a van. Now, the reason why I say the Berlingo wins out compared to the Combi Life and the Peugeot Rifter is because, so the Peugeot Rifter, when you have the boot like this, it offers exactly the same, 775 litres. However, when you fold down the rear seats in the Rifter, I say you only get, but you only get in inverted commas, 3,000 litres. So this offers 500 litres more. Now, when it comes to the Vauxhall Combi Life, that does lose out quite badly because when you have it in its normal configuration, you get 597 litres worth of space. But when you fold down the rear seats, you get, 2,126 litres. So yes, if you are looking at the Combi Life, do bear in mind that the space is a fair bit smaller than this and the Rifter. Now, apologies if I'm a bit mumbly today or if I'm a little bit incoherent. I do have a bit of a cold. I am coming down with something, so I am a little bit under the weather. So I am trying my best not to mumble, but yeah, if I do slip up my words, I do apologise. But yes, the boot opening is nice and wide. It's very practical. You've got a low load lip. There's no nasty step into the boot. So I think this will be a very easy car to load, which will be absolutely fantastic for everyday family life and indeed those long road trips in the summer holidays. Well, it's meant to be summer in the UK, but as you can see, it is quite wet and rainy today. Well, you can't see it too much, but yeah, there are quite a few raindrops on the car. So yes, also the parcel shelf can be moved to the middle to give you better versatility. So I will cut to a clip where you get to see it in action. Whilst I'm here, you've got 2 cup holders there and there, and you've also got a 12-volt socket just there. But yes, I'm sure you'll agree the boot is very, very gargantuan, and yes, very usable and very practical. So that gets a big thumbs up from me, Citroen. And you've got a little strap here to help pull the tailgate down if you happen to be a shorter person, but I'm 6'2", therefore I can just grab the top of it and just slam it down. And it does need quite a good slam in order to close it. Now, as part of the Flair specification, as standard, I get 16-inch alloys, which look quite nice. I get black roof bars, and I also get LED daytime running lights, which I have. Oh yeah, they are on. Sorry, for a moment I thought they'd switched themselves off, but as you can see, you've got the daytime running lights, looking quite sparkly. They do look quite fancy, actually, I must admit. Now, the car, let's quickly talk about the styling. Obviously, there's only so much you can do with a big boxy frame. I think this car looks decent enough for what it is. Just another thing to point out, you've also got the famous Citroen air bump panels to give the side of the car better protection, and you've also got a bit of plastic cladding going around the car to again give you a bit more protection, make the car look a bit more rugged. And if I come around to the back, you'll see you've got a similar design. Now let me step into the car. Or actually, just before I do so, one of the great things about having this as opposed to an SUV, obviously you have more space, but look at this, you have sliding doors, which will be more practical when you park in tighter spaces. Now, I've got to mention, if you do go for the 7-seater, you do get more space. The car is longer and you do get a bigger boot as well. I think if you go for the 7-seater, when you have these, I think it's when you have the rear seats down, the 6th and 7th seat, you get to around 1,000 litres. So if you want even more space, then check out the XL model. But as I've stated, I've got the M. Now, just quickly, whilst I'm here, in the back, you will see you have 3 individual rear seats, which is fantastic. However, those are only standard for this model. If you go for the base model, you won't get the individual seats. So that is worth bearing in mind, because I think that will be quite a strong selling point for buyers. Also, I will get into the rear at some point, but these tables, which are very handy, good for those long family road trips, or any road trip for that matter, these are also only standard on this model. You don't get these on the base model. So in all honesty, I think it's a little bit difficult to recommend the fuel specification, because yeah, the specification isn't fantastic. Also, if you go for the base model, you don't get electric rear windows. They are pop out, whereas I have got electric ones, of course. Anyway, I will come back to the rear in a bit. Now, one of the other optional extras, actually no, I've not mentioned it, have I? So, well, maybe I have. I've lost track of what I've said. But one of the optional extras, I have the Cumulus grey paintwork, which looks quite nice. I don't know why, it looks quite good when it's wet. Maybe that's just me, but this is a £545 option. I also have keyless entry, which, if I'm not mistaken, that is a £250 option. And I also have keyless start. The car is already unlocked. Now, let's speak about the interior. I quite like it. I quite like this kind of mint turquoisey kind of look. Now, on camera, it looks more grey, but it isn't. This is like a kind of mint colour, kind of a turquoise. And I do quite like it. It does definitely help to lift what is otherwise quite a drab cabin. Now, let me step in like so. Oh, I take the weight off my feet. Close the door like so. I will take you off my handheld tripod, so I've got better flexibility and manoeuvrability for my camera. So the inside, there are a lot of hard, scratchy plastics, but some may complain about this, but it does help to make the Berlingo feel more durable and rugged. And I do think it will, cope with family life quite well. One of the great things about the Berlingo is the amount of storage. So I will come back to the touchscreen in a little bit and the other specification, but guys, the storage in this thing is insane. So not only do you get one, but you get 2 glove boxes. So you've got this one here, you've got a top mounted glove box. In case you are wondering, the airbag for the passenger is mounted up here in the roof. So you get that glove box, sorry, I can't get my words out. You've got that glove box there, you've got an auxiliary port in there and a USB port just at the back there. Got a little cubby here, we can pop a few smaller items. And you've also got another glove box here, which hasn't got a cover. It's not overly massive, but it's a decent enough size. So I've got my wallet here, pop it in there, and I've got plenty of space. You may have just seen this little cubby hole here. I've got, excuse me, I've got the car key here because I've got keyless start and stop. So I keep the car key there, but it does rattle about when it's in by itself. So I do pop my phone in there as well. So it doesn't, the key doesn't slide about quite annoyingly. But I'm going to put my wallet in there. Let me turn that down. It's actually quite warm, the air conditioning. Aircon comes as standard, in case you are wondering, but let's face it, that is a pretty standard feature in 2019. You've also got this quite handy cubby hole in front of the driver. So again, you can pop a few smaller items in there. Let me fetch my wallet. I can slip it in like so. There we go, to give you an idea of how large that is. Now, you don't get cup holders in the middle because you don't have a center console as such, but you can spec one as an optional extra. But you do get a cup holder either side. So as you can see, I've got my sports bottle in there, and I've got one on the left-hand side. Now, I do think you'd struggle to get a larger bottle in here. So I don't actually know how large this bottle is. So I do apologise. It doesn't say on the bottom, or does it? Hang on, let me quickly double check. I've just double checked. That bottle is 0.57 litre. So yeah, let's call it, well, that's 570 millilitres, and that fits in pretty well. You do have a door bin down here. Well, actually, in fact, you have two door bins because they are split into two. Quite an unusual design, and I must admit, this door bin here, there's more of a pocket than a bin. It's not very big, but I could probably fit my wallet in there. Yeah, but just about fits in, just. And you can get a bottle of drink in here, but obviously it won't be very secure. You have to kind of lay it down. But if you had like a larger bottle of water, you could kind of prop it up like so. Pop that back there. Right, what other storage bits and bobs have we got? So you've got a little slot down here. You can put a bit of loose change, and you have a little tray here, so to speak. And you also get, now this will be very difficult to show you, but you also get overhead storage. So above in front of me, you've got a little bit just in front of you where you can store things up here. So a little bit difficult to tell you, to show you, and I know it's not the greatest angle, but yes, just if I just step out so you guys get a better view. So basically, just up here, you've got storage up there. You see where my hand is going. Yes, not a very good angle, I know, guys. But anyway, so let's talk through the specification. So as standard, I've got an 8-inch touchscreen with DAB radio, Bluetooth, smartphone connectivity and navigation. So I've got the smartphone connectivity page here. So I've got Apple CarPlay, MirrorLink and Android Auto. If I hit this button here, this will take me through to the radio. There we go, pretty standard stuff. This takes me through to the car settings. That is for the navigation, which is supplied by TomTom, as you can see just there. That takes you back through to the smartphone connectivity. This is where you can change the profiles for the system, and that is for your Bluetooth. It works well enough. I quite like the display. It can be a little bit laggy. It's not the slickest system in the world, but nor is it the worst. So let me pop it back on that one for the time being. So I've mentioned the air conditioning. I'm not too sure whether I've mentioned it, but you get an electric parking brake as standard. The base model gets a manual hand brake. Now let's go back to the optional extras. So I've got the grip control. So I've got a few different driving modes. So I've got normal, snow, mud, sand and ESP off. And if I just bring you guys over here to the little digital display, you can see the modes changing. So that was normal, that's snow, that's mud, that's sand, and that is ESP off. Now, as well as the different driving modes, the grip control system also gives you different tyres. You get all-weather tyres to give you the maximum grip possible. You also get hill descent. Again, I didn't mention that, but yes, you get hill descent in case you need it in more treacherous conditions. I'll be honest, I don't think you really need it for this kind of car, but That's merely my opinion. Right, what else? So another optional extra, I have the drive assist pack, which includes adaptive cruise control. So as standard, you get cruise control, but I've got adaptive cruise control. That is a £200 option. I've got rear parking sensors as standard. Oh, I need to have the engine turned on for that. Sorry guys, I'm getting really bunged up now, so I do apologise if I sound quite nasally. So pop it into reverse. Obviously it's not much to see because obviously when you get closer to an object it will start bleeping at you. Let's turn the engine off for the time being. As you may see, I've got speed sign recognition, and this car also has lane keep assist for good safety features. In case you are wondering about safety, this car was awarded 4 stars by Euro NCAP, so a pretty safe car. Right, anything else? Voice commands, that's part of the Flair specification, but you won't get that on the base model. Just give you a quick look at the steering wheel and the buttons. I've also got automatic wipers and automatic lights. Front and rear windows, as I mentioned earlier. If you go for the base model, you get front electric windows, but pop-out windows for the rear. Oh, actually, getting a comfortable driving position. I almost forgot about that. So the steering wheel, as you would expect, has got a good level of adjustment. You can adjust it for rake and reach like so. And the driver's seat also has a decent enough amount of adjustment. Let me step out so you can actually see it. Now, if you go for the base model, the driver's seat is not height adjustable, nor do I believe you can't change the tilt either. So yes, you've got the controls there, and there. Oh, I almost forgot about this. Look, more storage. Look at that. So you've got a tray underneath the driver's seat, which is quite deep. You can fit quite a few items in there. So that's very handy, and that is standard. Right, I think it's about time for me to move into the rear. Just before I do so, just to point out, you do get an armrest, and so does your passenger. So you don't have to worry about your passenger nicking your armrest space, because they have their own, which is quite handy. There we go. Let's turn the ignition off. Don't need that anymore for the time being. And let's step into the rear. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm 6'2". The driver's seat has been set for me, so I am of course a taller chap. So let's see how I get on in regard to space in the rear. Right, let me step in. So knee room is not too bad. I haven't got acres, but it's respectable. It's not too bad. And let's have a quick look at leg room. But flip you guys to the side. So leg room is, again, pretty decent. I haven't got acres of it, but for my height, it's enough. However, headroom, I must admit, is very ample indeed. Look at that. Even though I've got a panoramic roof, which can quite often cut into headspace, look at, I've got loads. I could probably wear a top hat if I wanted to. So that is very impressive indeed. Now, one feature I haven't pointed out, it is an optional extra, but I would argue it's probably one you should spec for this car. I've got the Modutop roof, and you may think, what on earth is Modutop? So you get the glass roof, and you also get this this floating rack, which is translucent, and you've got nice background lighting as well, which I think, well, I don't have children myself, I must admit, but I reckon that'd be quite a welcome feature for children. But you know, some of you may think I'm talking rubbish, but anyway, that's another matter. So if I flip you guys up here, you will see, look at that, you've got even more storage in here up the middle, which is simply fantastic. Now in total, if you spec this, in regard to internal storage in the cabin, you get a whopping 186 litres. 186. So this car is just full of storage. This is like a warehouse on wheels. It's fantastic. And it gets better still, because if I bring you guys up here like so, you will see you've got 2 compartments at the rear. You've got sliding doors, and look at that, you have even more space and even more practicality. One weird thing though, the actual doors, the material, it feels a bit similar to an egg box. I know it's really random, but that's just merely my opinion. It's not a complaint, it's just an observation. I'll show you in there as well. As you can see, it's quite a big space. Now, going back to the rear, could you fit 3 adults back here? I think you can. It may be a little bit tight, but thankfully, because you have 3 individual seats, they are the same width. So I think maybe a little bit tight. There's no nasty transmission tunnel going down the middle, which is quite handy. So yeah, one thing, each seat has got ISOFIX points, which for family life will be very practical. Speaking of practicality, let me talk about the tables. I know I touched upon these earlier, but you have tables that fold out like so. Now, quite annoyingly, compared to the Seat Tarraco I tested last week, these don't really lock into place. So all it takes is, I don't know, maybe you hit a nasty pothole, or maybe you just happen to flick it with your hand, and before you know it, you might end up with your dinner right in your lap. Sorry guys, I don't know why I felt the need to show you my crotch. I'm sure you guys really didn't want to see that, so I do apologise. But you get my point. It would be nice if they kind of locked into place. Now, if I have missed a trick, if I have done something wrong, I do apologise, but literally just lift it up and Bob's your uncle, so you don't click it into place. But the table does feel quite durable, so even the heavy-handed of child shouldn't be able to break it, which is quite good. The cup holder does look quite small. Now, my bottle just there, that doesn't fit in here, so I think if you had a can or perhaps a smaller bottle, or, well, I was going to say an energy drink, but an energy drink like a Red Bull would be too small. It would just fall through. And in case you're wondering, let me just bring you guys underneath. There's no kind of support for the cup holder that I can see, so I don't know how useful that cup holder will prove to be. Anyway, moving on. You've also got little pouches in the back of the front seats as well, and if I slide the door like so, you've also got a door bin which isn't massive, but you can fit 1 or 2 smaller items in, a snack perhaps. But yes, right, I think that's pretty much everything covered in the rear. In case you want to know where the electric window switches are, they are just there, but the car is switched off, therefore they will not do anything. And to open the door up, grab the handle and slide it back. That is quite heavy, so I think children would struggle. And close it like so. Actually, whilst I'm here, these seats, they got quite a handy feature. Now, they don't recline or slide forwards or slide backwards, but this feature's got, I think it's called the magic seat. So if I, so you can see you've got little, like a hinge there. If I pull the lever there, just look at the base of the seat. It folds down towards the floor and you get a nice flat loading area. Now I will cut to a clip where you get to see the all of the rear seats down. In fact, let me do that now. It won't take long, it's quite an easy process. Now for the middle seat, you don't get a button, you get a kind of fabric strap that you have to pull, like so. And then if I come around to the other side very, very quickly, excuse me, and then once more, easy peasy. And better still, the front passenger seat also does the same thing. So if I move that, oh, I've got a low battery on my camera, so my camera might conk out any minute. So you can fold the rear seat, so the front passenger seat forward as well, and that folds flat. I will, now from experience, there may be an easier way of doing it, but because of how the seat is set, the headrest will hit that part of the dashboard. So I will just take that off like so. And I've got a lever down here. And there we go. So if I come around to the boot and give you a quick view, you will see that you've got a nice flat load area all the way through. So if you want to load, I don't know, long items of wood or anything that is a longer item, you can do so, which is quite handy. So although this car isn't a van per se, although you can buy the Berlingo as a light commercial vehicle, you can use this as a van if you really wanted to, which is quite handy. Right, let me pop around here. Pop that back up like so. Pop their headrest back in. Marvellous. Let's just tilt that seat back a little bit more, so it's a bit more natural. Right, okie dokie. So, one thing I've got to mention, you do have a blind that can cover the glass roof in case you want to keep the sun out, but it does take quite some time. Any time today. and it's done. Also, as part of the grip control system, right, and let's finish with the engine. Pop up the bonnet like so. And let me come around here. Lift up the bonnet like so. Always good fun trying to do it with one hand. The bonnet release is all the way over here. Right, pop you guys down. Right. So then, what you are looking at is a 1.2 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged petrol. This engine is the PureTech 110. It offers 108 horsepower with 250 newton meters of torque. This engine can only be mated to a 6-speed manual gearbox. You can have an 8-speed automatic, but not with this engine. Now, I know you guys probably get bored of looking at the engine, so let me carry on my dialogue whilst I'm moving around the car. So this engine, now I was going to talk about the performance figures, but let's face it, this is a sensible family car, so I'm sure what you really want to know is the economy. So on a combined run, this engine will offer 42.4 mpg, and in regard to emissions, it emits 125 grams per kilometre of CO2, meaning for the first year of VED, you will be required to pay £170. Now, you can of course have different engines. There is another petrol engine you can have. You can have the PureTech 130. Again, that is a 1.2 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged petrol. That engine isn't available just yet. I've used that engine quite a few times, and that is quite a sweet engine. I think that'd work quite well in the Berlingo. Now, if you want a diesel, you can of course have one. You've got a choice of 3 diesels. You have one that produces 76 horsepower, one that produces 102 horsepower, and one that produces 131 horsepower. The 76 horsepower unit, I believe that is a 1.6 litre diesel, and the other two engines are a 1.5. They are the newer engines. I believe the 1.6 litre engine is quite an old engine now. Now, if you want more economy, you can of course look at a diesel, as I've mentioned. If you go for the 76 horsepower unit or the 108 horsepower units, you will get, on a combined run, 51.6 mpg. And in regards to CO2, they emit respective figures of 108 and 113 grams per kilometre. Now, I will quickly touch upon performance. I'm sure, let's go this way actually. I'm sure many of you aren't really concerned about the performance, but this particular car will hit 62 miles per hour in 11.5 seconds, and the top speed is 109 miles per hour. Now, speaking of this particular car, I'm not too sure whether I told you the price of this car you're looking at right here, right now. So with options, this car is £24,335. So like I said, the options, you've got the grip control, the keyless entry, the driver assistance pack, which gives you the adaptive cruise control, the modular top roof, and the cumulus grey paintwork, which is staring me right in the face. How could I forget it? I'm looking at it. And I think for the time being, that is everything I have to say about the car. Now, if there is anything I've missed off, please do let me know, and I will make sure to try and include it into the main review, which will be filmed the day after this video goes live on YouTube. Speaking of which, speaking of which, I now have a feature on the channel, in my reviews, called Ask Aaron. So if you have any questions in regard to a car that I am currently testing, please do drop it in the comment section below. Now, I do appreciate for this video, you haven't got a lot of time to submit your question, because this video is going live tomorrow, which will be Saturday, and I'm filming the full review on the Sunday, so the day after. So that is when I answer your questions as part of the review. So guys, if you do have a question, please submit it as quickly as you can, so that way I see it in time for Sunday. But until then, let me give you one more walk around the Citroen Berlingo Multispace M, or simply the Citroen Berlingo for short. So yes, like I say guys, if you have any questions or queries, or you just want to leave a comment, please don't be afraid to do so. But yes, there will be a full comprehensive review of me actually driving this car. This is simply a walk around, a kind of first look, and I suppose kind of a static review if you think about it. Anyway, I think I've been talking for quite some time, so it's probably time for me to finish. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it or found it useful. If so, be sure to like, subscribe and to ring my bell so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession. Oh, I really need to rest my throat. Someone get me a Lemsip.